We've all seen it. The people's eyebrow. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson made his charismatic eyebrow raise iconic during his time with the WWE. Looking at Dwayne Johnson's life solely in the context of the present day, where he sits atop a Hollywood hierarchy above stars like Robert Downey Jr., Mark Wahlberg, and Tom Cruise as some of Hollywood's highest paid actors, isn't telling the whole story. While audiences around the world recognize him for his $1,000,000 smile, his arched eyebrow, and rippling muscles, his ascension from teenage delinquent to college and professional football player to WWE wrestling champion and finally Hollywood and business mogul is still difficult to comprehend, despite a now several $billion box office pedigree. Today we are taking a look at the trailblazing, inspiring life story of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Dwayne Douglas Johnson was born in Hayward, California on May 2, 1972, into a professional wrestling family. He was an only child with Samoan, Canadian, and African American roots who lived and traveled with his parents across the United States. Rocky, his father, a professional wrestler trying to make ends meet, was the driving force behind his family's constant travels. Dwayne grew up admiring his family's wrestling tradition. And his father, Rocky, and grandfather, Peter Maivia, were both professional wrestlers. But as the years passed, with tensions at home high and financial difficulties constant, Dwayne's father eventually left the picture, leaving Dwayne and his mother, Ada Johnson, on their own. Dwayne, a 14-year-old boy living in a tiny house in Honolulu with divorced parents, began to feel the weight of depression.
Anything big that would happen, I would always take a moment and I just remind myself, all right, I was evicted when I was 14. We were kicked off the island. We couldn't live in Hawaii. Had no place to live.
When he and his mother returned home one day, they discovered a padlock on their front door and an eviction notice taped to it.
It just gives such perspective. When we were 14 years old, we lived in Hawaii, and we lived in a small efficiency apartment. And my mom and I came home, and I'll never forget, the rent was $180 a week. And there was an eviction a week, and there was an eviction notice on the door, and it was the final eviction notice. Like, that's the one. My mom started crying, and I never forgot in that moment. It was a seminal moment for me because I felt like I never want to be in this position again. What can I do? So at 14 years old, I thought, well, the heroes in my life, Muhammad Ali, for example, professional wrestlers, they're all men who have worked hard with their hands and they built their body. Yes, that's what I'm going to do.
As he stood there watching his mother cry, Dwayne felt helpless. They didn't have a car to live in because it had been repossessed only a week before. Fortunately, his family agreed to lend them a week's rent, allowing them to temporarily return to their home. Dwayne lay in bed that night, grateful to just have a bed to sleep in, contemplating how he could keep his mother from ever being evicted again. He considered the men he admired, such as Stallone and Schwarzenegger, and concluded that he could be like them. He began to build up his body, which was the only thing he could do with his own two hands. In the eyes of young Dwayne Johnson, if he looked like his heroes, he could be as successful as they were. This was Dwayne's defining moment, as he would later admit. From fighting and forging checks to joining a theft ring in Waikiki that preyed on wealthy tourists, jewelry stores, and high-end clothing stores, Dwayne was continuing his spiral into delinquency. Despite all of this, he still found time to hit the iron after selling the loot with his gang, pushing himself to new heights in order to emulate his heroes and become a man of action. Due to repeated expulsions, Dwayne Johnson had already sailed through 4 high schools by the age of 16. His unusually large physique did not win him any friends at Freedom High School in Pennsylvania, where he eventually enrolled. The other students assumed Dwayne, who stood 6 foot 4 inches tall and weighed 225 pounds, was an undercover narc. He now admits that his very bad mustache didn't help his case at the time. One high school teacher, however, seeing his potential, committed Dwayne to join the football team. Jody Quick, the head football coach, turned out to be the teacher. Dwayne, to his surprise, quickly fell in love with the game. For the first time in his life, things began to look up for him. His grades improved, and colleges from all over the country began to contact him. The coach who started it all became a father figure to Dwayne, and he left an indelible impression on him that he still remembers. Dwayne eventually received a full scholarship to play defensive tackle at the University of Miami when he was 18 years old. He was motivated and convinced that he could one day play in the NFL. However, Dwayne was forced to return home due to several major injuries and a 0.7 grade point average, sending him to despair as he tried to recover from his injuries. His coach eventually called and pushed him to get back on track at school. Dwayne eventually earned his bachelor's degree in criminology and then relocated to Canada to pursue his dream of playing in the NFL. The Calgary Stampeders of the Canadian Football League signed him in 1995. It wasn't a pretty sight, though. Dwayne was only earning $200 per week, living in a two-bedroom apartment with 3 other players, and was on the verge of going broke. All they ate were ramen noodles and spaghetti. To make matters worse, Dwayne slept on an unimaginably stained mattress that he discovered abandoned outside a motel. He had to remind himself that it would all be worth it if he made it to the NFL. Ultimately, however, Dwayne was cut from the team 2 months into the season. He felt lost, alone, and he'd never felt so exhausted before. With his dreams shattered and only $7 in his pocket, he had no choice but to leave Canada and move back in with his parents at the age of 24. Not too long after this devastating turn of events, the phone rang one day, and Dwayne was surprised to hear the voice of the coach who had cut him from the CFL team. He was asked to come back. Dwayne assured the coach that he would consider it and then hung up. Dwayne's father was confident that his son would return, but Dwayne took a deep breath and admitted that he had had enough of football, and it was time for him to get into the wrestling business now. Dwayne knew in his heart that he had to do it, and he gave his father the choice of joining him or not. As a result, his father rose to the occasion and began training him, beginning one of the most important chapters of his life. Dwayne had his first WWE tryout in 1996. In his first match, Annie had to borrow his uncle's shorts because he was broke. He made his Survivor Series debut in 1996 under the moniker Rocky Maivia in honor of his father and grandfather. Surprisingly, the audience despised him. His act of being a nice guy wasn't working, and he was getting booed all the time. Every match brought chants of "Rocky sucks," and he quickly realized that this phony persona wasn't fooling anyone. When Dwayne returned to the ring shortly thereafter, he reinvented himself as the villain. The Rock was born at this precise moment. He quickly became the WWE's hottest fighter. With his charisma and surprising comedy, he won 17 championships and then crossed over into mainstream pop culture. It was undeniable that his decision to be true to himself and project a more genuine persona had paid off. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson was at the pinnacle of his professional wrestling career. He'd finally been successful at purchasing a real home for his parents, as well as fulfilling a childhood dream of owning a Rolex watch. His ambitions, however, had grown significantly since he started wrestling. After many years in the WWE, he felt he had accomplished everything he desired. So Dwayne walked away, turning his attention away from the wrestling ring and to the silver screen. Dwayne set out to make it big in the film industry with a mix of Chuck Norris and Harrison Ford in mind. In the year 2000, The Rock was invited to host Saturday Night Live. He accepted the invitation, and following a solid performance, the movie industry took notice. Dwayne Johnson began his acting career as the Scorpion King in The Mummy Returns in 2001 when he was 29 years old and had no prior acting experience. Dwayne Johnson made a name for himself in the entertainment industry very quickly. He earned a reputation as a dedicated actor who put his heart and soul into everything he did. His work continued even after the cameras had stopped rolling. He devoted himself to learning every aspect of show business, even assisting in the marketing of his films on social media to his millions of followers. He was finally reaping the benefits of his warrior-like determination as he built up his body and reputation. He and his business partner, his ex-wife, formed Seven Bucks Production after the success of Fast and Furious 6 in 2013, and it serves as a constant reminder of his humble origins when he was cut from a CFL team nearly 20 years early with only $7 in his pocket. Fast forward a couple of decades, and Dwayne Johnson had the distinction of being the highest grossing actor in Hollywood in 2015. In 2016, he became the highest paid actor in the world. Dwayne Johnson was also honored with his own star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Dwayne Johnson's success has climbed from being named the sexiest man alive to one of the world's most influential people. His fierce competitive nature constantly pushes him to outperform himself in all aspects of life. His previous battles serve as a constant reminder to never stop pursuing bigger and better goals. Dwayne, on the other hand, maintains his modesty and is eager to assist others in their endeavors. Every day he posts a snippet of his life on social media in the hopes of inspiring and motivating his millions of followers. His posts were always encouraging, reminding them to strive for more and have faith where life takes you. His hard-earned money is now going toward everything from colorful suits and pancakes to real estate and his Rock Foundation for at-risk kids, where he applies the same faith in punk kids that his former coach did all those years ago. He also has his own wildly successful tequila brand called Terramana, an energy drink called Zoa, and is also co-owner of the XFL. From having $7 in his pocket to being ranked the 10 richest celebrity of 2020 with an estimated net worth of $87.5 million, calling Dwayne Johnson's story incredible would be an absolute understatement. Let us know if you like this video in the comment section. Also, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell if you're new to the channel to be notified when we upload more content. We'll see you guys in the next one.